So, hello there, back again with another video on Metasploit all the things. It's a continued video series for the course Advanced Network Exploitation Expert. If you are unaware, you can go to the below URL, which is mentioned in the comment or probably in the description. And yeah, you'll get all the details. What is the course, who's the course for, and so on and so forth. So we are continuing the series against our third section for the module 1, the basics, where we are working around Metasploit, understanding features of Metasploit, of course, and so on and so forth. We already started with the basics and we are somewhere with the Venom, right? We already understood a couple of scenarios, couple of things within the Metasploit like shellcode, structure, difference, and so on and so forth. We will be starting other options offered by Metasploit. During the time of this upload, you will get the updated notes or gitbook over the same. So go there, check, and yeah, let's dig in. So we'll be continuing our MSF Venom, right? It offers multiple different options. We are somewhere with -L, which will going to list all the modules like payloads, which we have already saw. It's a shell code, malicious piece of code, a Trojan code, and whatnot. Encoders is something we will be focusing on. Of course, we're not gonna understand how this encode works and so on, but we'll just give you a basic idea. Nopes, platform, arc, encrypt, format. Not all are in scope of this course, but yeah, whatever which suits for our learning journey will be considered. So let's start with the encoders first. So here, MSF Venom again. I would like to list all the different encoders and it will going to list down. And here we have. It offers a few of somewhere like 15-20 different encoders. What it will gonna do, it will encode our shell code, the malicious piece of code, with the feature of automatic decoding functionality. Like it will encode that malicious piece of code that will automatically decode it during the execution. This is how it usually works. So multiple different encoders are there. Some are for the command, some are for the different programming, or I would say not the programming but the interpreted languages. Some are for the particular platform or particular architecture like x64, and there are a lot for the 32-bit. But most of the encoders which you find here will be detected by the AV or antivirus solutions basically. So yeah, there are a lot. We cannot move and dig into each and every, but it is just giving you an idea. You can write your own encoder in if you feel that you can do a little programming, and those encoder will going to help you bypassing some AV checks. Of course, it will be just like code checking or integrity specific, that will going to manipulate hash and some signatures, but it will not gonna be effective much with the execution flow. So but yeah, eventually Metasploit offers those encoding mechanism that you can implement. Again, moving back with the MSF Venom, we will use this encoder a little late, but yeah, for now, let's just move ahead with the different things. So we are clear with the encoders. What it will gonna do? It will encode our shell code, the only malicious piece of code, with the functionality of automatic decoding. Nopes are just no operations probably. So let's see if there what type of nopes it offers. -L, nope, it should be S. Of course I shouldn't get error. Yeah, it automatically fixes that S. So here it offers few different ways or few different knobs generator, which is a no operations. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing much information for now, but yeah, when in case of need, I'll gonna explain you in detail. So right now, let's just consider as it's just in knobs. mm, the other things it offers are platform. Let's see what platforms are listed when we just type with hyphen L. It basically offers different operating system or interpreter probably. Yeah. So Windows is operating system. If we say PHP, Python, Ruby, or Node.js, those are the framework. Not the framework, I would say it's interpreter, which requires that executable of PHP, executable of Python in order to interpret our malicious piece of code. So it uses that specific in order to perform a malicious actions or activity. And there are some other, not all are the one which I am at least aware of, but yeah, this is something it offered. It is not a small, it's really huge list. You can dig in order to find further. But what it will gonna offer you is the different platform. Let's see what other MSF Venom offers. The architecture. So let's go and look ahead. Hey Metasploit, MSF Venom, show me all the architectures. And here's the different architecture for the different, of course, platform. So some are for the 32-bit, some are for the different, and yeah, some are for the executable against PHP. By default, all the payload has pre-configured architecture and platform. So you no need to mention that at all. But what you can do is you can mention using the other options or argument here. For example, for the knobs, you can just use this, or for the encoder, you can use this. You don't need to, of course, but yeah, you can use hyphen E in order to specify your encoder. For the architecture, of course, you can use hyphen A and so on and so forth. Metasploit also offers few encryptions. Again, it will going to encrypt your malicious piece of code, which will be communicating, or which will be or the shell code will be encrypted within the particular uh, Trojan or executable, I would say, and you can decode it, or not a decode, of course, it will be a decrypt. You can decrypt with the key specified during your interaction. So this is all it offers. You can encrypt your malicious piece of code, which is a shell code, not the entire executable, but just a shell code can be encrypted. It will be again helpful for your execute or your malicious activity bypass, and I would say the signature check bypass for your antivirus. And yeah, so it offers payload, which is malicious piece of code, encoder to avoid the integrity checks. What it will gonna do, it will encode with the various formats. Knobs are just knobs that appends or that add the randomness, random values towards your malicious piece of code. Platform are the different operating system and interpreter to specify. Architecture is again the architecture where it will gonna execute 32-bit, 64-bit, or different interpreted languages. Encrypt will going to encrypt your malicious piece of code or a shell code formats. This is important and we will be focusing ahead. MSF Venom hyphen list. Hey MSF Venom, show me all the different formats supported by Metasploit, MSF Venom, or the Venom creator. So some of them are the framework executable format. What does it means by framework executable and framework transform formats? So let's start with the framework executable. What it will gonna do? It will going to execute on top of the particular executable, or I would say this will be a standalone executable in simple term. Uh, and the one which are mentioned here will going to use the functionality. This will going to use the functionality of those particular languages in order to achieve the same. Simple term, let's say this is framework executable which will be executed directly, whereas this transfer format will going to generate a shell code that can be appended in various languages. Let me give you a short example so you'll get a better understanding. So this framework executable, what I'm gonna do is let's create exe for now. Okay, then understand, in order to understand just how it works. MSF Venom hyphen P. Yeah, let's go with this. I would specify format as a exe. Hmm, it will show me some random values. I don't wish to see that, so I'll just append all the output values or output data into a file. Let's say test1.exe. And it did created one binary executable basically. So if I type file test1.exe, it is pe32 executable. It's a Windows format basically. What if I generate the same thing, but this time let's say I want to specify C here. C is a language, hope we all are aware. And here now if I just type file test1.c, it says it is just a text. Let's see what it contains. If I type cat test dot or test1.c, it has a piece of code. This is in a C language, of course. If I choose any other language here, what it will generate? It will generate just a malicious piece of code that requires someone to execute. It will not gonna execute straight away. It requires someone to trigger a function to execute or go through this entire buffer, or this entire array, buffer array basically, and execute each and every statement of the state. So basically, what is moral of the story here? This executable format will generate a straight away executable files that does not require any some or any other function to trigger the execution. It just requires a click to execute. For example, let's say ASP, it requires a hosting over ASP server, ASPX against the same. DLL requires someone uh, to load that particular DLL, and it will auto execute the malicious piece of code. EXE is of course the executable. Similarly, there are jar and so many different formats. So those are the executable, whereas those are just a malicious piece of code. It will generate a code for various language, various scripting language could be also there, and it will require someone to trigger the execution. When we follow up our buffer overflow series, you will understand in a better way. But for now, let's just keep a simple term. This is the executable format that does not require execution trigger, whereas framework transform require a particular coded or particular compiled, or let's say it requires someone to call that particular function or program in order to execute that malicious piece of code. So it will just generate a plain code. whereas it will generate executable code. Simple enough. Perfect. Let's see what MSF Venom offers further. So we have seen a list of all the different modules. If you specify all, it will respond or return with a different format, different payloads, different encoders, knobs, platform, and so on. We will be not going to focus each and everything here. We will be start gradually, and when we are at the stage of understanding some different or let's say some advanced things, we will be of course considering a repetition or reminding or summary for the one which we have already learned. So yeah, let's understand now few different things against our MSF Venom, a Venom creator too. All right. The first and foremost, let's generate our first ever malicious piece of code or executable here. Okay, we're not gonna generate a code. We're going to generate a executable, an execute. So here we go. What is the format? I'm gonna tell, hey MSF Venom, I want you to use a particular payload. -p is for the payload, as you can see over here, right? Now, if you want to list all the different options or yeah, the arguments that is required for that particular payload, what you can do is you can just specify your payload with hyphen hyphen list hyphen options. What it will going to do, it will list down all the different options that it offers. This is for a particular Windows OS. You can make one for the Linux, you can make one for something else, right? Not all the things we really need to configure or modify. We need few things only, right? And that is the L host. L host is a local host or the listening host basically, where your listener would be listening to. As we already aware, reverse shell will going to deliver a connection, right, or a shell as a service. Then to receive that connection, we need our particular port to be open on a particular IP address. So lhost will going to tell the executable to where to connect. So it is like a address to your building, address to your home, whereas lport is the room number of your building. So this is your building address and this is your room number. When attacker or when the victim will have both the information, then they can come to you, meet you, and do the things that you're gonna tell him, of course. So simple way, nothing difficult, of course. So let's move ahead with specifying those arguments. Those are the important one. If you want to supply those advanced options, you can go ahead, but this is not something really required. So let's go and specify. The first and foremost is lhost. No need to be capitalized here, so you can just make mention in a small if you really wish to go with the specific capital letter. Elsewhere small should work. So 10.0.0.7, oops, typos. L port, when you don't specify L port, what it will gonna use is 4444. Remember, for all the reverse and bind connection, the default L port which we saw here is 4444. So you no need to specify that as well, unless you really wish to, or you really need to. So I'm gonna choose, let's say, 443 and hyphen f, in which format you want your executable or you want your shellcode to be. So let's say I want this particular actions activity in Python, right? So you will require Python to execute your malicious piece of code. So I can specify this py and should be good. However, what I can do is I'm gonna just focus on this exe and it will going to generate exe. Again, when I don't specify any output path, then it will going to display everything straight here, and it will not gonna make any sense. So yeah, exe hyphen o, I'll specify any output file path. Let's say first, or let's make it please subscribe. Hope you like exe. Should be good. So hyphen o is for the output, where you want your output to be saved. So I'm saying, hey Metasploit, you have to make one poisonous payload, poisonous Trojan for me, that will going to perform activity of reverse shell. What is reverse shell? We already covered over the TCP protocol, where the reverse connection will be built on 10.0.0.7, means this is my building address on room number 443, which is your port. The output format I want in exe, and it should be saved with the name of please subscribe. So I have my binary. If I just type file please subscribe, it worked. P32, this is 32-bit basically. So if you wish to go with the 64, what you can do is you can mention your 64-bit payload. It will going to automatically choose architecture from the one. So no art selecting architecture x86 from the payload. If you don't specify architecture, it will use the payload. So if you want to make for 64-bit, you can just choose the one, right? Or else what you can do is you can specify your architecture. Let me show you in a bit. Still working. Yeah, so this is the 32-bit payload. I want my architecture to be x64. Never tried, but yeah, let's see how it goes. So x64. So now it says the selected architecture is incompatible with the payload. It says that the payload you are selecting is 32-bit and the output you want is 64. It doesn't match. So either what you can do is go and use the 64-bit payload along with the architecture you want, right? So this will going to fail. That's why I always keep this as a default. Take the whatever default payload for the particular, or default architecture for the particular payload, right? So yeah, this is all important keynotes or points for the tool, which is MSF Venom. We have seen list. We're going to list all the information of modules, payload to specify a particular made payloads from the list option will going to list all the different arguments needs to be supplied along with your payload. Hyphen f is a format, hyphen e is an encoder. Let's see how this encoder works. Not the works, but what it makes a difference. So again, I'll use the same, list all the different, let's say, encoders. Come on, yeah, here we have. Okay, so I'll be choosing any x64 one, and there are only few, of course. So what I'm gonna do, let's say XOR. This is encoder. I'm gonna use this x64 one with encoded version, or I'm just specifying my encoder here, which is x64 XOR. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make it as please subscribe underscore XOR. And yeah, we can later compare both the binaries. Perfect. Let's just compare here itself so it will make more sense. It's the same without encoding. Perfect. So here, final exe size will going to remain the same. However, the payload size, if you notice, is slightly increased from 460 to 503, right? So its integrity will be changed. How you can validate integrity? You can use sashum or MD5 and your file name, because please let's make it star. So here we have both of the binary have the different hash, different integrity, whereas the size is almost same. There is one more important keynote with the encoder, which is your iteration. So if you see here, iteration is mentioned 0. You can increase that iteration with -I. So let's say I want this iteration to be like 15 times. I want my payload to be encoded, let's say 15 times. Let's see how it makes a difference. Should be ready here. Perfect. So first it did with the iteration 0, it moved towards iteration 14. The payload size is gradually increased. As you see, 503, then 543, then so on and so forth till 1063. The final payload size here is 1063. So when your AV just detects that signature of a malicious file, then you can use this encoder. You can write your own encoder and it should really help. You can find this encoder probably in /user share Metasploit framework modules and coders, and probably here. So let's say for x64, here's the one. So how this SOR works, if you know the Ruby, you can just read this entire small code. It's not that huge. You read it, understand it, how it works, and that's it. Not a big deal, right? If you see, most of the, the output here is a comment again, right? If you exclude comment, it will not gonna be not gonna be a huge. So if I just say wc hyphen lines, so it's just 48 lines. If I remove that hashes here or the comments here, so let's say not the card, grab hyphen capital V, probably it is, with the hash here. No, small v, yeah, small v. The small v will going to exclude that. So total 32 is the line to read here. It's not a big code for that SOR encoding. You can write your own, you can trick, you can just reuse, modify it a little bit in order to bypass the existing detection of Metasploit encoder. It will not going to be difficult, trust me at all. So yeah, this is all how encoder works and how iteration works in order to bypass AV. But in current time, all the Metasploit templates, all the Metasploit encoders are something which is easily detected. So it's difficult to survive, of course, with just Metasploit. But in a lab environment, it will be super easy. It will be really super duper easy. So let's move ahead with any other option that we have missed here. MS of Venom. Yeah. So encoder, is something which we have already seen. Service name, it is something when we create a service binary. This is something we will be going to use for sure during the privilege escalation. Current time, don't focus on it at all because this may create a trouble with your learning path. So don't just jump high. Keep slow and steady. But of course, you can go through, read it once, and if you are aware, then it's your plus. The section name is where your malicious binaries section should be named, right? So by default, it uses random 4-character alpha string. So you want your binary section in a different name, you can use this. Smallest will going to generate a smallest possible payload against your specific language, right, or specific format. Encrypt will going to use encryption, whereas you can specify key and iv. This is again not something that I'll gonna focus for the current time, but later on in case of need we will going to focus for sure. The architecture is something which you already saw, is 30-bit, 64-bit, and the different, right? The platform, again, something similar. O is for output. The bad character is something we'll be focusing on, but not right now. It is something for the buffer overflow. That time we will be understanding this bad character, nopes lad, pad nopes, and so on. You can just specify a maximum size of resulting payload with -s. Iteration is something which we already saw. You can specify additional file, any file basically for the Windows executable in for including, right? But this is again not in scope of current work or current time. It will create a mess. So this, the course is designed in such a way. Template is something we can of course go with the, so if you have any executable, existing executable, you can use that in order to inject your malicious piece of code. So you can specify your executable file, use this -x to specify the path, and your output will going to contain the final result. It is like injecting malicious piece of code in existing binary. Let's take an example. So I'm locating nc.exe here, which is easy to find executable in our Kali Linux. So let's go with this cp this nc into current path. I'll go with the 32-bit for now, -x in order to specify a template here, and it will be nc.exe. Should be good, and let's hit enter. Perfect. So now this please subscribe has all the details of this nc.exe. The payload size is small, however, the executable is somewhere equal to this nc.exe. It used that nc.exe, injected its malicious piece of code, and the output final result is here. So if I compare, this is our malicious binary and this is our nc. You see both are somewhere equivalent with the size of course, but if I compare the integrity, md5 sum please subscribe .exe and nc.exe, both are really different. So but yeah, this is how it works basically. It can, you can use any executable, inject your malicious piece of code, and it'd be easy to move ahead. Next here, keep will going to preserve the template behavior and inject the payload in a new thread. So instead of changing the behavior of executable, so it will maintain all the functionality of the current executable, it will going to create new thread in order for your malicious piece of code. So this is again interesting and something worth to look around. You can give it a try and you'll get an idea. Variable name is something for the framework transform payload, where you will get that in a code, right, in a C code, Python code, and so on. So what it will gonna do is like it will going to set a specific variable name for that output. It will be in a code, nothing different. The timeout wait reading the payload from standard input, nothing useful, but yeah, the description says the number of seconds to wait when reading the payload from standard input. Really not interesting at all, but yeah, this is all planned for MSF Venom. All the details that I could deliver, I tried. When will require additional information in the later on with the current course, I will going to explain for sure. So yeah, if you like, hit that subscribe. Of course, you can hit that like button too when you really like it. And if you have any suggestion improvements, comment below. Or if you feel everything is good, of course you can comment below for that as well. I tried my best in order to deliver the best, and yeah, you people are best. So that's it, that's all. See you next time. Hello there, back again with another video on Metasploit all the things. It's a continued video series for the course Advanced Network Exploitation Expert. If you are unaware, you can go to the below URL, which is mentioned in the comment or probably in the description. And yeah, you'll get all the details. What is the course, who's the course for, and so on and so forth. So we are continuing the series against our third section for the module 1, the basics, where we are working around Metasploit, understanding features of Metasploit, of course, and so on and so forth. We already started with the basics and we are somewhere with the Venom, right? We already understood a couple of scenarios, couple of things within the Metasploit like shellcode, structure, difference, and so on and so forth. We will be starting other options offered by Metasploit. During the time of this upload, you will get the updated notes or gitbook over the same. So go there, check, and yeah, let's dig in.